I'm seeing it now. It's not seeing exactly. It's like the colors are a kind of feeling. Violet, this deep, impossible violet, but it's not just a color. It's warm and it pulses like a slow heartbeat. And gold, not like sunshine, but alive. It glows from within. It's not bright, not harsh, but it's everywhere. An all encompassing glow that feels like being held. There's a hum, too. It's not something I'm hearing with my ears. It's more like it's vibrating through my bones. This deep, resonant hum that feels ancient and peaceful. And the warmth. Oh, the warmth. It's like being submerged in a sunbeam, a profound, impossible warmth that sinks into you and dissolves all the sharp edges. I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't a color I've ever seen. It was more like color as a feeling. It was like the air itself was alive and I was breathing it in. And then a presence. Not a shape, not a form, but a presence that I knew with a certainty that bypassed everything. It was like looking into a mirror and seeing someone you'd forgotten you'd ever known, but loved so completely. And then I was in the hospital. My name is Eleanor Vance. I'm 62 years old, and for the last 30 years, I've been a taxidermist. It's a strange profession, I know. Most people don't really understand it. They think it's morbid or creepy. But for me, it's always been about preserving a moment, about honoring a life. I've always been incredibly self-reliant. I like to say I'm my own best company. I don't need a lot of people around me. I've always been the kind of person who figures things out on their own. And my beliefs? Well, let's just say I'm a firm believer in what's real, what's tangible. I didn't believe in anything I couldn't touch, see, or measure. When you're dead, you're dead. That's it. Game over. No soul, no afterlife, just nothing. And I was perfectly fine with that. My only son, David, we're estranged. 5 years now. It's a long story and frankly, not a particularly happy one. We don't talk. It's a silence that's grown between us, heavy and thick. My mornings were always the same. I'd wake up around 5:30 before the sun was even thinking about coming up. I'd make a cup of strong black coffee, no sugar, no cream, and I'd sit at my kitchen table, looking out at my backyard, planning my day. Most of the time, my thoughts would drift to my work, the delicate process of bringing stillness back to a form. But sometimes, it would drift to David, what he was doing, if he was okay, if he ever thought about me. Those thoughts were like little pebbles in my shoe, a constant, low-level irritation. The week before, I'd been meticulously working on a rather magnificent stag. Its antlers were something to behold, and I was determined to capture every last detail of its regal bearing. I remember thinking, as I carefully stitched its eye closed, that it was almost a shame to have such beauty hidden away in the back of my shop. It deserved to be seen, to be admired. That felt like a fleeting moment of softness, perhaps. Something I didn't often allow myself. Did you have any sense, looking back, that something was coming? Looking back, yes, there were little things. Nothing I paid much attention to at the time, mind you. I'm not one for omens or signs, but now, the Tuesday before, I was at the grocery store, picking up my usual things, and I reached for a carton of eggs, and the entire shelf just wobbled. Not like it was loose, but like the whole thing gave a little shiver. The eggs rattled, and I almost dropped the carton. I just blinked, shook my head, and thought, must be a truck going by. A big one. But there were no trucks. And then there was the dream, just 2 nights before. I was in my kitchen, the one I'm sitting in now, but it was different. The light was all wrong, and I felt this overwhelming sense of static, like the air was buzzing. I woke up with that feeling clinging to me, a prickling on my skin. I remember thinking, God, I'm just tired. I need a good night's sleep. I brushed it off, of course. I always do. I'm Eleanor Vance. I don't get spooked by a wobbly shelf or a weird dream. I was just tired. Too much taxidermy, probably. Too many late nights. It was November 7th, 2023, a Tuesday. Late afternoon. The sky outside was that bruised, overcast gray that Wisconsin gets in the fall. The kind of gray that just saps the color out of everything. I was in my kitchen, just like this one, preparing a simple meal. Actually, I was making myself a shrimp scampi. I'd bought some beautiful, plump shrimp that morning at the market. I remember the smell of the garlic and butter hitting the pan, the sizzle. Mittens, my cat, my ginger tabby, was curled up on the windowsill watching a squirrel dart across the lawn. She's usually a very vocal cat, always demanding attention. But that afternoon, she was unusually quiet, just observing. I'd just taken a bite, maybe two, and then it started. A prickling, burning sensation starting on my tongue, spreading outwards. It felt like 1,000 tiny needles, but hot. My throat felt like it was closing, like a fist was squeezing it. I couldn't breathe. My chest tightened, that same clenching feeling, but more intense. I dropped the fork. It clattered against the tile floor. I remember seeing it, just for a second, before my vision started to swim. I stumbled to the sink, gasping, trying to get air. I knew, with an absolute chilling certainty, that this was it. I was dying. I saw Mittens, still on the windowsill, her tail giving a slow, lazy flick, completely unaware of the drama unfolding. She just looked like a cat, a perfectly ordinary cat. The paramedics told my son later, after they got there and everything, that I'd been clinically dead for 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The monitor had flatlined. The moment of transition wasn't a fading out or a falling into darkness. It was more like being gently, but definitively, pulled through a shimmering curtain. Imagine a heat haze on a summer road, but instead of distorting the air, it was distorting reality itself. And I passed through it. Not with force, not with resistance, but with a profound sense of inevitability. Like stepping from one room into another, only the rooms were infinite. And then I was there. The first thing I noticed was the absence of weight. All the heaviness of my body, the aches and pains that had become such a familiar part of my existence, were gone. I felt buoyant, like a feather. The silence was the next thing. It wasn't an empty silence, but a rich, full one. It felt like it was made of velvet, muffling any trace of earthly noise. And then the light. Oh, the light. It wasn't bright, not in the way we understand light. It was soft, an all-encompassing glow that didn't seem to come from anywhere. It was present, like the air is present. Does that make sense? It was a light that was also a warmth and a sound. Dominant colors, yes, but they weren't colors as I knew them. Iridescent violets and golds that pulsed with their own internal light. They weren't just hues, they were textures, emotions. It was like color as a feeling, a language. And then I felt a presence. It wasn't a visual thing, not at first. It was a knowing, a recognition that hit me like a physical force. It was my mother. I hadn't spoken to her in the last decade of her life, not since the argument we'd had about David. The anger had calcified between us, a wall of unspoken accusations and regrets. But here, in this place, all of that dissolved. It was instantaneous, a deep, soul-level knowing that bypassed any physical features. I didn't see her face, not as I remembered it. I felt her, and the feeling was pure, unadulterated love. It was like a homecoming. And then the message. It wasn't spoken words, not in the way we use them. It was a direct infusion of understanding, a download of pure consciousness. I understood with absolute clarity that the anger I had felt towards her for her perceived judgment was entirely misplaced. She hadn't judged me. She had been afraid. Afraid of what the world would do to me, afraid of my strength, afraid of my independence. Her silence, her perceived disapproval, was her own fear, a twisted form of protection. She loved me, deeply, fiercely. And in that moment, I saw it. I saw how much she'd loved me. And then, a flicker. A brief, almost imperceptible glimpse of David. He was young, laughing, telling a story. And I knew with that same infusion of understanding that he remembered the stories I'd told him about his grandmother. He missed her. He missed me. He wanted to talk to me. The realization was so potent, so overwhelming. It felt like my very essence was cracking open. I saw myself, standing in my kitchen, the shrimp scampi on the counter, the look of pure terror on my face. And then I saw my mother, not as I remembered her in her final years, but as a young woman, vibrant and full of life, her eyes full of a fierce protective love for her daughter. And I knew, with uncertainty that went to my core, that she had always believed in my strength, even when I hadn't. Her silence wasn't a judgment. It was her own fear of what the world would do to me. She loved me. And David, he remembered. He missed me. He wanted to talk. The return was violent. It was like being snapped back into a body that had been discarded, a shell that was suddenly reanimated. It was a physical wrenching, a tearing sensation. I fought it. I didn't want to come back. I was still wrapped in that impossible warmth, in that luminous presence. Why would I want to go back to a world of pain and separation? But then, the thought of David. That glimpse of him, his memory of his grandmother, the unspoken yearning, it was a thread, a single, thin thread that pulled me back. I didn't want him to be alone. Not completely. The sensation of re-entering my body was like being plunged into ice water. It was heavy, so incredibly heavy. The sounds of the hospital room rushed in, the relentless beeping of a heart monitor, the low murmur of voices. It was too loud, too bright, too real. The first thing I saw when my eyes fluttered open was the concerned face of a nurse. She had kind eyes, but her expression was strained. "Eleanor, can you hear me?" she asked. Her voice sounded foreign, tinny. And then the words I'd been dreading, or perhaps just expected, from my son, David. He was there, his face etched with worry, but also something else, relief. "Mom," he said, his voice rough, "you scared us." Scared us, that was the first thing. Not love, not a hug, but a reminder of the inconvenience I'd caused. It was jarring. The world felt so separate, so fragmented, compared to the wholeness I had experienced. The beeping of the monitor was a constant, intrusive reminder of my fragile, broken body. I was in the hospital for about a week. David visited every day. We didn't talk about it, not at first. He just sat with me, sometimes reading, sometimes just being there. The first real conversation we had about a month after I got out wasn't about what happened, but about what I was going to do. I looked at my taxidermy business, at the forms waiting to be filled, the skins waiting to be tanned, and I felt nothing. A profound emptiness. The desire to preserve had vanished, replaced by an overwhelming need to connect. I told David I was closing the business. He looked surprised, then a little hesitant. "Are you sure, Mom?" he asked. "It's what you've always done." "It's not what I want to do anymore," I said, and for the first time in years, I meant it. I sold the business, the equipment, everything, and I started volunteering at the local animal shelter. It's chaotic, noisy, and often heartbreaking work, but it's real. I found that the heightened empathic sensitivity they talked about in that other place, well, it's real too. I feel it. The animals' fear, their joy, their pain. It's like a physical ache sometimes. The first time I held a shivering, abandoned puppy, I felt its terror course through me. My own hands started to tremble. It was overwhelming, but also grounding. It made me feel connected in a way I hadn't before. I'm trying to reconnect with David too. It's slow, awkward even. But we talk. We're learning each other again. Last Tuesday, he called me from college, crying about a failed exam, a silly argument with a friend. I sat down on my old kitchen chair, and I listened for 45 minutes. I didn't check my phone once. That's new. I just listened. And I felt that impossible warmth, not in a sunbeam, but in the quiet space between our words. It was a start. A clumsy, hesitant one, but a start nonetheless. The silence between us wasn't the heavy, suffocating blanket it had been for so long. It was becoming something else, something softer, more breathable. I found myself looking forward to his calls, not with a desperate longing, but with a quiet anticipation. It was like tending to a delicate seedling, this newfound connection with David. You can't force it. You have to nurture it, give it space to grow. The empathy, though, that's the part that truly disorients me. It's not just a feeling of understanding, it's a visceral experience. When I'm at the shelter and a dog whimpers in fear, it's not just a sound I hear. It's a tremor that runs through my own chest, a tightening in my gut. When a cat purrs contentedly, its vibration seems to resonate within my own bones, a gentle thrumming that brings a smile to my face. It's exhausting at times, overwhelming. There are days when I have to retreat, to shut myself away in my small, quiet house, just to regain some semblance of equilibrium. The cacophony of human emotion can be deafening, but then I remember that glimpse of David, the unspoken need there, and I know I can't afford to retreat entirely. This sensitivity, this raw exposure to the emotional currents of the world, it's a consequence, a byproduct of that other place. And I have to learn to navigate it. I remember one afternoon, I was sorting through donations at the shelter. A woman came in, her face a mask of despair. Her voice was low, almost a whisper, as she explained that she could no longer keep her beloved terrier mix. She had to move into assisted living, and pets weren't allowed. As she spoke, I felt a wave of crushing sadness wash over me, so intense it felt like a physical blow. My knees went weak, and I had to lean against a table. Her grief was a tangible thing, a heavy cloak that settled onto my shoulders. I could feel the little dog's confusion and fear, the unspoken plea for understanding. The woman's hand trembled as she stroked the leash, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. I wanted to tell her that everything would be all right, but the words felt hollow. Instead, I found myself mirroring her distress, a silent acknowledgement of her pain. I felt the tremor in my own chest, the knot in my throat. It was a shared burden, a burden I now carried alongside her. After she left, the residual ache lingered for hours. It was a potent reminder of what I had been and what I had become. The hard edges of my former self were softening, eroding, replaced by something more fluid, more permeable. It's funny, isn't it? I spent my entire life building walls around myself, convinced that self-reliance was the ultimate virtue, that vulnerability was a weakness. I prided myself on my independence, on my ability to stand alone. And here I am, a 62-year-old woman, finding my strength not in isolation, but in connection. In the shared sorrow of a grieving pet owner, in the awkward, fumbling attempts to rebuild a relationship with my son, in the silent understanding with the animals I care for. It's a profound shift, a complete reorientation of my worldview. The materialist, the staunch atheist, the woman who believed that death was the ultimate annihilation, she's still here, somewhere, but she's been irrevocably changed. She's seen behind the curtain, glimpsed a reality that defies all logic and scientific explanation. The taxidermy business was more than just a job. It was my identity. For decades, it was the lens through which I viewed the world. The meticulous attention to detail, the painstaking process of preservation, the creation of stillness from chaos. It was a way of imposing order on the messy, unpredictable nature of life. And in a strange way, it was my coping mechanism. By giving form to the departed, by creating a semblance of life from death, I was asserting a kind of control, a defiance against the ultimate surrender. Now that business is gone. The forms are gone. The skins are gone. And for the first time in my adult life, I'm not sure what my purpose is. It's a terrifying, exhilarating uncertainty. I've started sketching again. It's something I haven't done since I was a young woman. I used to love to draw, to capture the essence of things on paper. But life, as it tends to do, got in the way. The demands of work, the complexities of relationships, the sheer effort of survival, they pushed art to the sidelines. Now, I find myself drawn back to it. Not the precise, anatomical drawings I used to do for my work, but more fluid, abstract pieces. I sketch the animals at the shelter, their raw emotions pouring onto the page. I sketch the patterns of light and shadow in my garden, the way the wind rustles through the leaves. And sometimes I sketch the colors, those impossible, pulsing violets and golds. They're difficult to capture, of course. No pencil or charcoal can truly replicate that iridescent glow, that sense of living light. But I try. I try to translate that feeling, that resonance, into something tangible. It's a form of remembering, of holding on to that experience without being consumed by it. The other day, David called. It was a Friday evening, and I was making myself a simple vegetable soup. The sky was darkening outside, and a gentle rain was falling. He sounded different, less guarded. He told me he'd been thinking about me a lot lately. He'd been going through some old photos, and he'd found one of me and him from when he was about 10. I was holding him, and we were both laughing. He said he hadn't realized how much he missed that. He said he missed my laugh. My laugh. I haven't heard that word associated with me in years. I'd forgotten what my own laugh sounded like. He went on to say that he'd been thinking about what I'd said about closing the business. He said he understood, and that he was proud of me for finding something new. Then, he asked if I'd be willing to get together for lunch next week. Just us. No agenda, no expectations, just lunch. My heart, that old, reliable muscle that had carried me through so much, felt like it was expanding. It was a physical sensation, a lightness spreading through my chest. It wasn't the profound, impossible warmth I'd experienced, but it was a warmth nonetheless. A small, human warmth. I agreed, of course, enthusiastically. We set a time and place, and then we talked for another half hour about nothing and everything. He told me about his job, about a movie he'd seen, about his cat, a sleek black creature named Shadow. I listened, really listened, and I felt that familiar hum, that low vibration of connection. It wasn't the resonant hum of the afterlife, but it was a vibration nonetheless, a subtle symphony of shared experience. And for the first time in 5 years, I felt a genuine sense of hope. The estrangement hadn't been a permanent scar. It had been a wound that was finally beginning to heal. Later that evening, after David had hung up, I sat in my kitchen, the soup simmering on the stove. The rain had stopped, and the moon was a pale sliver in the clearing sky. I looked at the spot on the counter where the shrimp scampi had been, the evidence of my almost demise. It felt like a lifetime ago, a surreal dream. But the echoes of it were still with me, woven into the fabric of my being. The iridescent colors, the resonant hum, the profound warmth, the influx of understanding, they weren't just memories. They were part of me now. They had fundamentally altered the way I perceived reality, the way I experienced life. I picked up my sketchbook. I didn't try to draw the colors this time. Instead, I drew the feeling of that phone call, the lightness, the quiet joy, the tentative hope. I drew the curve of David's smile, the warmth in his voice. I drew the gentle rain outside, the pale moonlight. It wasn't perfect. It was clumsy, imperfect, much like my attempts to reconnect with my son, much like my newfound empathy. But it was real. It was honest. It was me, trying to make sense of it all, one imperfect stroke at a time. The taxidermy business was about preserving the past, about creating a frozen moment of what once was. But my new life, my real life, is about embracing the present, about allowing myself to be changed, to be moved, to be connected. It's about understanding that death isn't the end, but a transition, a profound, transformative event that can paradoxically teach you how to live more fully. And if I've learned anything from my brief but utterly life-altering sojourn beyond the veil, it's that the most valuable things in life are not tangible. They are the love we share, the connections we forge, the understanding we offer, and the willingness to be vulnerable. My mother's love, a fierce and protective force that transcended even death, showed me that. David's yearning, his desire to reconnect, showed me that. And the quiet, unassuming love of the animals at the shelter, their simple need for care and companionship, shows me that every single day, I am no longer just Eleanor Vance, the taxidermist. I am Eleanor Vance, the woman who died and lived to tell the tale, and who is now finally truly alive. The journey ahead is uncertain, and it will undoubtedly be filled with its own challenges, its own heartaches. But for the first time in a long time, I face it not with dread, but with a quiet, resolute courage. A courage that has been forged in the crucible of death and tempered in the light of an understanding I never thought possible. The purple and gold shimmer is still there, in the periphery of my vision, a constant reminder of what lies beyond. But it no longer beckons with a promise of escape. It illuminates the path forward, a path that is both deeply human and profoundly transcendent. And I walk it with a newfound lightness, a lightness that has nothing to do with the absence of weight and everything to do with the presence of love. And I walk it with a newfound lightness, a lightness that has nothing to do with the absence of weight and everything to do with the presence of love. The quiet courage I spoke of, it's not a loud, bombastic thing. It's more like the steady, persistent glow of embers, a warmth that sustains you from the inside out. It's the courage to face another day, not because it's guaranteed to be good, but because it's there, because there's breath in my lungs and the possibility of connection, of understanding, of simply being. It's the courage to pick up the phone, even when my hand trembles, and dial David's number. It's the courage to sit in a room with someone whose grief is a palpable weight and to simply bear witness to it, without needing to fix it or explain it away. It's the courage to admit, when I falter, when I feel that overwhelming tide of another's emotions threaten to drown me, that I am human and I am learning. The animal shelter has become my sanctuary, a place where the raw, unvarnished emotions of living creatures are laid bare. There's no pretense, no artifice. A dog's joy is pure, unadulterated, a wriggling, barking, tail-wagging explosion of happiness. A cat's contentment is a low, rumbling purr that vibrates through the floorboards, a balm to my own unsettled spirit. But there's also the fear, the loneliness, the lingering pain of abandonment. And that's where the true work lies for me. I can feel the tremor of a frightened kitten as I gently scoop it into my arms, its tiny heart hammering against my chest. I can sense the ancient weariness of an older dog, its body aching, its spirit dimmed by years of hardship. And in those moments, my own past hurts, my own estrangement, seem to shrink, to become less significant. The animals don't judge, they don't hold, they simply are. And in their being, I find a profound sense of peace, a grounding that was absent in my previous life, where every interaction was carefully calibrated, every emotion carefully guarded. My mother. I think of her often now, not with the lingering resentment that once poisoned our relationship, but with a deep, abiding tenderness. I understand now with a clarity that stuns me, the fear that drove her silences, the protective instinct that manifested as disapproval. She saw the world as a dangerous place, and she tried to shield me from its harsh realities. She believed in my strength, and perhaps that strength was part of what terrified her. She knew I wouldn't be content with a life that felt small, confined. She knew I would push boundaries, challenge conventions, and that, for a woman of her generation, of her experiences, was a frightening prospect. I wish I had understood that then. I wish I had been able to offer her the comfort of knowing that her fears, while understandable, were not the only truth. But perhaps in that other realm we had that conversation. Perhaps that infusion of understanding was not just for me, but a bridge between us, a reconciliation that transcended time and space. I imagine her, young and vibrant, as I saw her in that fleeting glimpse, her eyes filled with that fierce protective love, and I feel a sense of profound gratitude. She gave me life, and in a way, she gave me the understanding of how to truly live it. David, our lunches have become a regular occurrence. We started small, just coffee at a quiet cafe. Then we moved to a more substantial meal, a shared appetizer, a conversation that flowed more easily with each passing week. He's still David, of course. He's got his own worries, his own stresses, his own way of navigating the world. But he's also more open. He shares things he never would have before. He talks about his work, his frustrations, his small triumphs, and I listen. I truly listen. I don't interrupt with unsolicited advice or offer platitudes. I simply absorb his words, his emotions, and I offer the quiet presence that he seems to crave. He's told me in hushed tones that he feels I'm different, less brittle, more accessible. He's even tentatively asked me about my experiences. Not the details, not the specifics of what happened, but he's asked me if I'm okay, if I'm happy. And I can honestly answer yes, I am. It's not a simple, uncomplicated happiness, but a deep, resonant contentment, a feeling of being finally, fully aligned with myself. The empathy is still a challenge. It's a constant negotiation, a tightrope walk between feeling and overwhelming. I've learned to create mental shields, not to shut things out, but to modulate the intensity. It's like turning down the volume on a radio that's playing too loud. I can still hear the music, but it's no longer deafening. I've discovered that if I focus on the breath, on the rhythm of my own inhale and exhale, I can anchor myself. It's a simple, primal act, but it's incredibly effective. It reminds me that I am a separate entity with my own energy, my own needs. And from that place of groundedness, I can then extend compassion, understanding, without being consumed. I've also found that the heightened sensitivity has given me a new appreciation for the subtle nuances of human interaction. The unspoken gestures, the flicker of an eye, the slight shift in posture, these things, which I once dismissed as insignificant, now speak volumes. I see the weariness in a cashier's shoulders, the quiet desperation in a parent's hurried footsteps, the flicker of joy in a child's eyes as they chase a pigeon. These are the threads that weave the tapestry of human experience, and I am now acutely aware of their intricate patterns. It's a humbling, often poignant realization. One evening, a few months ago, I was at the shelter, cleaning out a kennel. A young woman, no older than 20, came in with a tiny, terrified kitten. It was a scrawny little thing, all matted fur and wide, fearful eyes. The woman was crying, explaining that she'd found it abandoned in a dumpster. As she spoke, I felt the kitten's terror surge through me, a raw, primal fear that made my own hands tremble. I could feel its heart pounding, a frantic rhythm against my own, and then a different sensation, a faint, almost imperceptible warmth emanating from the kitten. It wasn't just fear. There was a tiny spark of resilience, a desperate, flickering hope for survival. I looked at the young woman, her face etched with concern, and I saw a reflection of that same hope. She was offering this fragile creature a chance. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of connection, not just to the kitten, but to the woman, to the shared act of compassion. It was a silent acknowledgement of our shared humanity, our shared vulnerability. I found myself reaching out not to touch her, but to offer a small, reassuring smile. And she returned it, a tentative, grateful gesture. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated grace. The world, once so solid and predictable, now feels more fluid, more mysterious. The strict materialism of my past life seems like a quaint, almost naive notion. I still believe in observable reality, of course. I still need to pay my bills and make sure the shelter has enough food for the animals. But I no longer see that as the only reality. There are other dimensions, other layers of existence that are just as real, if not more so. The purple and gold, the resonant hum, the impossible warmth, they're not hallucinations or fading memories. They are echoes, vibrations that have imprinted themselves onto my being, altering my perception of what is possible. I've been sketching more, too. Not just the animals, but the abstract impressions of those experiences. I found myself drawn to watercolors, to the way the colors bleed and blend, creating unexpected hues and luminous textures. I try to capture the feeling of that iridescent glow, that sense of living light, by layering translucent washes of violet and gold. It's not a perfect representation, of course. How could it be? But it's a way of honoring that experience, of keeping it alive within me, without letting it overwhelm me. It's a form of prayer, I suppose, in its own way, a silent acknowledgement of something far greater than myself. There are still days when the weight of it all feels heavy, when the sheer volume of emotion, both my own and others, threatens to drag me down. Days when the memories of estrangement, of missed opportunities, resurface with a painful clarity. But even on those days, there's a difference. There's a resilience, a quiet strength that was not there before. I know now that I am not defined by my past mistakes, by the walls I built. I am defined by my present actions, by my willingness to learn, to grow, to connect. David and I are planning a trip together. Just a weekend getaway to a small cabin by a lake. He suggested it, and I was so overcome with emotion I could barely speak. It's not a grand gesture, not a dramatic reconciliation. It's simply time. Time spent together in a quiet, natural setting. Time to simply be without the weight of unspoken words or past hurts. I'm looking forward to it with a quiet, almost reverent anticipation. It feels like a testament to the slow, steady work of healing, of rebuilding. The colors, the violets and golds, they still shimmer at the edges of my vision, especially when the light hits just right, or when I'm particularly moved. They're not frightening anymore. They're beautiful. They're a reminder of the profound mystery of existence, of the infinite possibilities that lie beyond our current understanding. They are a testament to the fact that death, far from being an end, is a transformation, a radical, irreversible change that can, if we allow it, lead us to a deeper, more authentic way of living. I still catch myself sometimes in moments of quiet reflection, feeling that impossibly profound warmth. It's not as intense as it was then, of course. It's more like a gentle ember, a persistent glow that reminds me of the immense love that surrounds us, that permeates everything. It's a love that transcends the physical, the material, the rational. It's a love that connects us all in ways we can barely comprehend. And in that understanding, in that deep, unwavering knowing, I find my peace, I find my purpose. I am no longer Eleanor Vance, the taxidermist, the woman who believed in nothing but the tangible. I am Eleanor Vance, the woman who glimpsed the infinite and who is now, finally, truly alive, breathing in the vibrant, pulsating colors of a reality far more wondrous than I ever imagined. The world is still the same world, but my place within it has shifted, irrevocably. And for that, I am eternally grateful. The scent of wood smoke from a nearby fireplace drifts in through the open window, a comforting, earthy aroma that blends with the faint, sweet scent of drying herbs on my windowsill. It's a simple smell, a mundane smell, but it anchors me. It reminds me of the solidity of the present, of the quiet beauty of everyday life. And as I sketch, my pencil moving across the paper, translating the echoes of light and color into form, I feel a profound sense of completion. Not an ending, but a full, rich circle. The cycle of life, death, and rebirth, not as an abstract concept, but as a lived, deeply felt experience. I am a testament to its truth, a breathing, feeling, loving testament. and that I think is more than enough. It is everything. The sharp, clean lines of my taxidermy tools lie dormant in their case, their purpose fulfilled, their era concluded. Now my hands hold charcoal, watercolor brushes, and the fragile pages of my sketchbook. They are instruments of creation, of expression, of connection. They are the tools of a different kind of life, a life dedicated not to preserving the stillness of the past, but to embracing the vibrant flux of the present. My mother's love, a beacon in the darkness, guided me back. David's yearning, a fragile thread, pulled me forward, and the silent, profound wisdom of the animals, their unadulterated existence, taught me how to truly see. I am no longer afraid of the void. I have seen what lies beyond it, and it is not emptiness, but an infinite ocean of love and light. The iridescent violets and golds pulse gently in my inner vision, no longer a disorienting spectacle, but a comforting presence, a reminder of the vast, interconnected web of existence. I carry them within me now, not as a burden, but as a gift that allows me to experience the world with a depth and richness I never thought possible. The sting of grief, the ache of loss, these are still present, for I am still human. But they are tempered by a profound sense of gratitude, a quiet joy that radiates from the core of my being. I am not cured, but transformed. I am not healed, but whole. And that, in itself, is a miracle. The world outside my window is alive with the muted greens and browns of late autumn, the leaves rustling in a gentle breeze. It's a familiar landscape, but I see it with new eyes, with a deeper appreciation for its quiet beauty. The ordinary has become extraordinary, infused with the lingering glow of that extraordinary experience. I am a walking, breathing paradox, a testament to the fact that death is not the end, but a profound and beautiful beginning. And I am ready for whatever comes next, with open hands and an open heart. The lingering warmth, the hum, the colors, they are the backdrop to my new reality, the constant, gentle reminder of a truth that transcends all earthly understanding. They are the whisper of the infinite in the heart of the finite. And I am listening. I am finally listening. I find myself drawn to the quiet moments, the interstitial spaces between the grand pronouncements of life and death. The way the dust motes dance in a shaft of sunlight, the almost imperceptible shift of a cat's weight as it settles for a nap, the subtle hum of the refrigerator in the early morning hours. These are the small miracles, the constant affirmations of existence that I once overlooked in my relentless pursuit of certainty. My taxidermy business was an attempt to freeze these moments, to imbue them with a permanence they never possessed. It was an act of defiance against the natural flow, a futile struggle against the inevitable. Now, I understand that true preservation lies not in stillness, but in appreciation, in the ability to witness the fleeting beauty of life and to hold it in my heart, not in glass eyes and preserved fur. The act of sketching has become my meditation, my way of communing with that other realm without being consumed by it. I don't aim for photorealism. That's a relic of my past life. Instead, I seek to capture the essence of what I've experienced. The pulsating violets and golds are not just colors, they are emotions, vibrations, the very fabric of that luminous space. I try to translate that feeling, that impossible warmth, into the swirling dance of watercolor, the gentle bleed of pigment on paper. It's a painstaking process, an exercise in patience and intuition. Sometimes I feel I come close, that I can almost feel the resonance humming through my fingertips as I blend a shade of gold with a wash of amethyst. Other times, it's a frustrating endeavor, the pigments stubbornly refusing to yield to the nuances of my memory. But even in the frustration, there is a profound sense of engagement, of purpose. David and I are planning that weekend trip to the lake cabin. It's a simple plan, unburdened by grand expectations. No elaborate discussions about the past, no attempts to dissect what went wrong or what might have been. Just two people, a quiet setting, and the promise of shared space. He's been asking me more about my experiences, not with morbid curiosity, but with a genuine, if tentative, interest. He asked me, the other day, if it was lonely where I'd been. I told him, no, not lonely. It was full. And in that moment, I saw a flicker of understanding in his eyes, a spark of recognition that reached beyond the everyday. He still struggles with his own demons. I can feel them sometimes, the echoes of his own anxieties. But he's learning to navigate them, to not let them consume him. He's also learning to accept that some experiences, some truths, lie beyond the realm of logical explanation. The empathy continues to be a challenging, yet ultimately rewarding, aspect of my new existence. It's like having an extra sense, one that allows me to perceive the emotional landscape of others with an almost overwhelming clarity. At the shelter, I can feel the quiet desperation of a dog abandoned by its family, the shy curiosity of a kitten born into the harsh realities of street life, the weary resignation of an older animal overlooked by potential adopters. It's not always easy. There are days when the sheer volume of emotional input feels like a physical assault, leaving me drained and disoriented. But I've learned to create boundaries, not walls, but gentle filters that allow me to engage with these emotions without being submerged by them. I've discovered the power of my own breath, of grounding myself in the present moment to create a space for compassion without sacrificing my own well-being. The other day, while volunteering, a young woman brought in her aging cat. It was a beautiful creature, regal and serene, but clearly ailing. The woman was heartbroken, her voice thick with unshed tears as she explained that the cat's time was short. As I gently stroked the cat's soft fur, I felt its quiet acceptance, its dignified surrender to the inevitable. And in that moment, I felt the woman's profound grief wash over me. A wave of sorrow so intense it brought tears to my own eyes. We didn't speak of it, but there was a silent acknowledgement between us, a shared understanding of loss, of love. It was a moment of profound connection, a testament to the universality of our shared human experience. My mother's voice, though I never heard it spoken aloud in that other realm, is a constant presence in my mind now, not as a reproving echo, but as a comforting hum. I understand her now, her fears, her limitations, her deep, abiding love for me. The arguments, the silences, they seem so small, so insignificant, in the face of that overwhelming love. I often find myself talking to her, sharing my experiences, my joys, my struggles. It's not a one-sided conversation. I feel her presence, her understanding, a gentle warmth that emanates from within. It's as if that brief, transformative encounter has opened a channel between us, a bridge that transcends the boundaries of life and death. The colors, those impossible violets and golds, are no longer merely visual stimuli. They are feelings, sensations, the very essence of a reality that exists beyond our physical perceptions. They are the backdrop against which my new life is being painted, the vibrant hues that illuminate the ordinary with an extraordinary glow. I still find myself reaching for my sketchbook, for my watercolors, trying to capture their luminous quality, their pulsating energy. It's a futile endeavor in its literal sense, but it's a spiritual one. It's my way of honoring that experience, of integrating it into my being without allowing it to dominate me. It's a constant reminder that there is more to existence than meets the eye, more to life than the material world we inhabit. The quiet courage I mentioned earlier, it's not a fleeting emotion. It's become a part of me, a steady, unwavering force that guides my actions. It's the courage to be vulnerable, to open myself up to the ebb and flow of life, to embrace the unknown with a sense of wonder rather than fear. It's the courage to rebuild relationships, to forgive past hurts, to extend compassion even when it's difficult. It's the courage to simply be, to exist in the present moment, fully and authentically. This courage is not an absence of fear, but the willingness to act in spite of it, to move forward with a quiet resolve, knowing that I am not alone. The animal shelter has become my haven, my classroom, my sanctuary. Here, amidst the cacophony of barks and mews, the raw, unadulterated emotions of living beings are laid bare. There is no pretense, no artifice, only the honest expression of need, of joy, of pain. I've learned to read the subtle nuances of their body language, the flick of an ear, the twitch of a tail, the dilation of pupils. I've learned to translate their silent pleas into actions, to offer comfort and solace to those who have been discarded and forgotten. And in doing so, I've discovered a depth of connection, a sense of belonging that I never thought possible. The animals, in their simple, unencumbered existence, have taught me the true meaning of unconditional love and acceptance. They do not judge. They do not hold grudges. They simply are. And in their being, I find a profound sense of peace, a grounding that was absent in my previous life, where every interaction was carefully calibrated, every emotion carefully guarded. My mother's love, once a source of conflict and misunderstanding, has become my guiding light. I see now the immense fear that fueled her silences, the desperate need to protect me from a world she perceived as cruel and unforgiving. She believed in my strength, perhaps too much, for she feared that my independence would lead me into harm's way. She wanted to shield me from the harsh realities she herself had faced, and in her misguided attempts, she created a chasm between us. If only I had understood then, if only I had been able to offer her the reassurance that her fears, while valid, did not have to dictate my life. But perhaps in that luminous space beyond, we finally had that conversation. Perhaps that infusion of understanding was a bridge between us, a reconciliation that transcended time and space. I see her now, young and vibrant, her eyes filled with that fierce protective love, and I feel a profound sense of gratitude. She gave me life, and in a way, she gave me the understanding of how to truly live it. David and I, we are finding our way back to each other. Our lunches have become a ritual, a quiet anchor in the shifting currents of our lives. We started with hesitant conversations, laced with the awkwardness of years of estrangement. But with each shared meal, each shared silence, the walls between us have begun to crumble. He confides in me now, sharing his triumphs and his failures, his hopes and his anxieties. And I listen. I truly listen, without judgment, without unsolicited advice. I offer him the quiet presence he seems to crave, a space where he can be himself, without fear of repression. He's told me in hushed tones that he feels I'm different, less brittle, more accessible. He's even tentatively asked me about my experiences. Not the specifics, not the details of what happened, but simply if I am okay, if I am happy. And I can honestly answer, yes, I am. It's not a simple, uncomplicated happiness, but a deep, resonant contentment, a feeling of being finally fully aligned with myself. The estrangement hasn't been erased, but it has been transmuted into something new, something stronger. A bond forged in the crucible of shared experience, tempered by the fires of loss and rediscovered love. The empathy, while still a formidable force, has become more manageable. I've learned to navigate the currents of others' emotions without being swept away. It's a constant process of recalibration, of finding that delicate balance between connection and self-preservation. I've discovered that by focusing on my breath, on the steady rhythm of my own heartbeat, I can anchor myself, creating a safe harbor within the storm of external emotions. From this place of groundedness, I can extend compassion, understanding, without sacrificing my own emotional integrity. It's a learned skill, a hard-won wisdom, that allows me to engage with the world more fully, more authentically, without being consumed by its often overwhelming intensity. The world, once so solid and predictable, now feels more fluid, more mysterious. The strict materialism of my past life seems like a quaint, almost naive notion. I still believe in observable reality, of course. I still need to pay my bills and make sure the shelter has enough food for the animals. But I no longer see that as the only reality. There are other dimensions, other layers of existence that are just as real, if not more so. The purple and gold, the resonant hum, the impossible warmth. They're not hallucinations or fading memories. They are echoes, vibrations that have imprinted themselves onto my being, altering my perception of what is possible. I've learned that the tangible world is but one facet of a much larger, more intricate reality. I've been sketching more, too. Not just the animals, but the abstract impressions of those experiences. I found myself drawn to watercolors, to the way the colors bleed and blend, creating unexpected hues and luminous textures. I try to capture the feeling of that iridescent glow, that sense of living light, by layering translucent washes of violet and gold. It's not a perfect representation, of course. How could it be? But it's a way of honoring that experience, of keeping it alive within me, without letting it overwhelm me. It's a form of prayer, I suppose, in its own way, a silent acknowledgement of something far greater than myself. The process itself is meditative, a way to process the overwhelming influx of sensory and emotional information that now defines my life. It's a constant dance between remembrance and interpretation, between the profound stillness of that other realm and the vibrant chaos of this one. There are still days when the weight of it all feels heavy, when the sheer volume of emotion, both my own and others, threatens to drag me down. days when the memories of estrangement, of missed opportunities, resurface with a painful clarity. But even on those days, there's a difference. There's a resilience, a quiet strength that was not there before. I know now that I am not defined by my past mistakes, by the walls I built. I am defined by my present actions, by my willingness to learn, to grow, to connect. That quiet courage, it's not a loud, bombastic thing. It's more like the steady, persistent glow of embers, a warmth that sustains you from the inside out. It's the courage to face another day, not because it's guaranteed to be good, but because it's there, because there's breath in my lungs and the possibility of connection, of understanding, of simply being. David and I are planning a trip together, just a weekend getaway to a small cabin by a lake. He suggested it, and I was so overcome with emotion I could barely speak. It's not a grand gesture, not a dramatic reconciliation. It's simply time. Time spent together in a quiet, natural setting. Time to simply be, without the weight of unspoken words or past hurts. I'm looking forward to it with a quiet, almost reverent anticipation. It feels like a testament to the slow, steady work of healing, of rebuilding. The lake, with its vastness and its stillness, feels like a fitting place for us to reconnect, to find a new rhythm together. It's a testament to the fact that healing is not always a dramatic event, but often a slow, gentle unfolding, like the gradual clearing of a cloudy sky. The colors, the violets and golds, they still shimmer at the edges of my vision, especially when the light hits just right, or when I'm particularly moved. They're not frightening anymore. They're beautiful. They're a reminder of the profound mystery of existence, of the infinite possibilities that lie beyond our current understanding. They are a testament to the fact that death, far from being an end, is a transformation, a radical, irreversible change that can, if we allow it, lead us to a deeper, more authentic way of living. The scent of wood smoke from a nearby fireplace drifts in through the open window, a comforting, earthy aroma that blends with the faint, sweet scent of drying herbs on my windowsill. It's a simple smell, a mundane smell, but it anchors me. It reminds me of the solidity of the present, of the quiet beauty of everyday life. And as I sketch, my pencil moving across the paper, translating the echoes of light and color into form, I feel a profound sense of completion. Not an ending, but a full, rich circle. The cycle of life, death, and rebirth, not as an abstract concept, but as a lived, deeply felt experience. I am a testament to its truth, a breathing, feeling, loving testament. And that, I think, is more than enough. It is everything. The sharp, clean lines of my taxidermy tools lie dormant in their case, their purpose fulfilled, their era concluded. Now, my hands hold charcoal, watercolor brushes, and the fragile pages of my sketchbook. They are instruments of creation, of expression, of connection. They are the tools of a different kind of life, a life dedicated not to preserving the stillness of the past, but to embracing the vibrant flux of the present. My mother's love, a beacon in the darkness, guided me back. David's yearning, a fragile thread, pulled me forward, and the silent, profound wisdom of the animals, their unadulterated existence, taught me how to truly see. I am no longer afraid of the void. I have seen what lies beyond it, and it is not emptiness, but an infinite ocean of love and light. The iridescent violets and golds pulse gently in my inner vision, no longer a disorienting spectacle, but a comforting presence, a reminder of the vast interconnected web of existence. I carry them within me now, not as a burden, but as a gift that allows me to experience the world with a depth and richness I never thought possible. The sting of grief, the ache of loss, these are still present, for I am still human. But they are tempered by a profound sense of gratitude, a quiet joy that radiates from the core of my being. I am not cured, but transformed. I am not healed, but whole. And that, in itself, is a miracle. The world outside my window is alive with the muted greens and browns of late autumn, the leaves rustling in a gentle breeze. It's a familiar landscape, but I see it with new eyes, with a deeper appreciation for its quiet beauty. The ordinary has become extraordinary, infused with the lingering glow of that extraordinary experience. I am a walking, breathing paradox, a testament to the fact that death is not the end, but a profound and beautiful beginning. And I am ready for whatever comes next, with open hands and an open heart. The lingering warmth, the hum, the colors, they are the backdrop to my new reality, the constant, gentle reminder of a truth that transcends all earthly understanding. They are the whisper of the infinite in the heart of the finite. And I am listening. I am finally listening.